Hey darlings, it's Michaela. So we're going to talk about beiging white fat. And so basically what that means is making white fat more brown. So basically there's 2/3 types of fat actually. And maybe there's more as I was writing this down. So we're not going to talk about visceral fat. That's different. We're going to talk about white fat and brown fat. So basically, white fat is the fat that makes us fat. It is the jiggly, white, subcutaneous, under the skin, adipose layer, mushy gushy stuff. Okay? Brown fat is something that generates heat. It burns white fat. It makes us warm. So, I always yawn when I start to make videos. So you might be aware of the fact that brown fat essentially is something that's more prevalent in children. Basically, the younger you are, the more brown fat you have. The older you are, the less brown fat you have. And so essentially this is all for survival purposes. So basically everything like in our bodies is meant to make sure that we don't die. And then if conditions are suitable, perhaps we can reproduce. So anyway, this is what brown fat is for and why we have more of it when we're young. And so basically it's like if you've noted, children running around without jackets on, or staying in the pool a really long time, or in the ocean, and it's just like, oh my God, like how, oh my goodness, how are they even doing this? It's because of brown fat. And another thing just to kind of note, which I thought was interesting, is that babies have so much brown fat, and that's why they don't shiver. So even when they're like naked, in a cool environment, they don't shiver because their brown fat creates so much heat for them. Anyway, and so for us, so one thing that I kind of reflected on when I was coming up with this talk is that basically brown fat, what typically gets talked about, I'm kind of jumping into the deep end and assuming that people have a familiarity with the term brown fat and why it might be desirable. Basically, brown fat is something, most of us, when we have an awareness about it, it's that we want to activate it. We do something that makes us cold to activate brown fat in order to burn white fat. And so a lot of people talk about most of our like adults, brown fat is kind of located like in our like upper thorax, our chest, top of our back of our neck. And so when people at times want to activate this, they'll like put, cold water on themselves in the shower. Anyway, also just being cold for a while will activate brown fat. And things that are pretty unpleasant, honestly, like getting yourself like undeniably cold, not just like exposed to like something that's cooler. So lowering the temperature in your home, being outside for a while, to really like get your body cold. Another thing that activates brown fat, and this is a like, thank you, welcome to my world, get out of jail free card situation, is overeating. So overeating actually activates brown fat. And so why that is because brown fat creates heat, and heat is an inefficient creation of energy. We'll talk about, I slept for 3.5 hours last night. And I'm like, great. Except for right now. What was I gonna say? So, we'll talk about like, what do I wanna say? Basically the difference between brown fat and what creates that, and then what is tied to white fat, which is insulin. And how that operates. But anyway, so get out of jail free card with Michaela. Overeating activates brown fat, and basically you can't manage all of the calories that you've consumed. So what the body does in its efforts to be efficient is to create heat, get rid of energy inefficiently. So basically it wastes energy by creating heat. So anyway, this is why we can't gain 10 pounds overnight, even though we might have eaten, not 35,000 calories, but we're just gonna keep doing this apparently tonight. Apologies. Stay with me. But anyway, but part of that reason why there's a threshold, why there's a cap, is because of brown fat, like just getting rid of it. So anyway, just know that, like if you think, oh my God, I just royally fucked this up in terms of overdoing it, basically your brown fat will actually help you, and it'll create more heat. And if you've ever noticed that, like, being like a big, gross, sweaty mess after eating, like people have like night meat sweats, like eating like a load of, terrible food one day or one night, and you like are so hot in the night and you sweat, and that is brown fat, just like getting rid of this extra energy. So anyway, thank you for that. Not that we want to be overeating all the time, but it's just another like safety valve, which is pretty freaking cool. So beiging white fat. And so basically what that is making white fat burn more fat, burn more like brown fat. Brown fat basically has an abundance of mitochondria in it. So that's why it is brown. That's the color is due to the amount of mitochondria. And so the image that I put for this talk really had a white fat cell, an artist rendition, and a brown fat cell. And basically the adipocyte is the name of like the fat globule, is huge in the white fat cell, and it's a lot smaller, and there's more mitochondria in the brown fat cell. Nice to know. Anyway, so yes, so basically mitochondria, if we're not aware of this, mitochondria are the organelles in our cells that create energy. So this is something that this is actually what we support in Fat Burning Pro and in Fat Burning Pro Extended. Your mitochondria affect your metabolism. Your mitochondria affect your energy production. Your mitochondria affect what type of energy you are burning: sugar, glucose, fat, ketones. Anyway, so brown fat has so many mitochondria in it that it's changed its color. So conversely, insulin is a fat storage hormone. And so basically insulin is so focused on storing energy, and keeping our energy creation incredibly efficient. And basically what it does is it kind of locks down as much white fat as possible. And so the energy that insulin kind of allows is energy for movement, for brain function, for digestion. But brown fat is a bit more wasteful and generates heat as energy. Ketones are created when we burn fat for fuel. So basically we break fat down into ketones. That is the energy that they become. Carbohydrates get broken down into glucose. And the ketones actually are the thing that create the beiging of the white fat. And so basically insulin keeps the mitochondria tightly coupled, keeps them very efficient. But ketones, or being in a fat burning state, creating ketones from burning fat, this uncouples the mitochondria and it creates this inefficient usage of energy in this releasing of heat. And so the coolest thing about this is that this is not because you're going in a plunge pool every morning at 5 a.m., this is not because you have some like, kind of hardcore daily habit to lower your body temperature, to activate your brown fat, to burn your white fat. This uncoupling of mitochondria and creation of heat, this basically wasting of energy, happens because of the lifestyle you live, meaning the food you eat, the setup that your body has, how you eat, when you eat, the fuel that you're burning enables this reaction. And so basically, what you're consuming creates how your body works. And so I think that's crazy. And I think that that's actually, I'm sure I will revisit this topic a million times, but basically, I think so many people think that there's this kind of one-to-one relationship. Either you're eating more carbohydrates, or I like blue, or I, eat more fat and I eat less carbohydrates, and I like red. And it's like, well, I like, meat, or I really enjoy fruit. And it's like, well, this is just, what I like to do. But the thing that I think is missed a lot is that our bodies operate completely differently based on the fuel that we are ingesting and based on the fuel that we are generating. And so this is just such a great example of that. Basically, you burn more energy when you are consuming and living a lifestyle that easily burns your body fat for energy versus not. Okay, so insulin is designed to store fat. And another thing that I think is also really great to know, I'm getting into this now. Thank you for coming to my talk. Insulin is designed to store fat. And so basically, this is something that people freak out about, or actually they don't even freak out about it. They accept it, which I think is staggering, which is that muscle loss is kind of par for the course when you're losing weight. So muscle, of course we're gonna lose fat and muscle. That's crazy. Why would you lose muscle when you're losing fat? You only lose muscle when insulin is in the picture. So insulin has the possibility for the body to break muscle down because of its intent desire to store fat. Because storing energy is so important for it, it'll sacrifice other consequential tissues in order to create energy. And this is once again because of survival purposes. And so basically you can live for longer in the wild as a fat person with more fat on your frame than you can lean and with more muscle. So basically the body just sacrifices the tissue that is less consequential for survival. Muscle is critical for longevity, but if we're just thinking about survival, we don't give a shit about the next 20 to 50 years. We care about today. So this is something, and the thing that I want to say too is that this, people worry about this, we run the risk of breaking muscle down. People worry about this. We're not eating enough protein, or this can happen if we try to run off protein, if we actually don't give ourselves, the fuels, the two options are carbohydrates or fat. Protein is not a good source of fuel, but sometimes people will mistake the fact that their prioritization of protein is actually what gives them the most energy, and that's just not true. So we're either using one or the other. We all need protein to support our muscle mass, to create new tissue, to help with hormones, to help with satiety, but not for energy. But anyway, this breakdown of muscle is so what do I want to say? It's so possible when insulin is high, when insulin is in the system often. And so even when we overdo it, when we underdo it with calories or energy expenditure, you know, how most people want to lose weight, which is to eat less and move more, and we're still keeping carbohydrates higher, and we're still eating with frequency. Basically, when insulin is present, the nature is just to store fat, and it will do so at the risk of breaking muscle down. And then lastly, big no-nos for fat burning is eating often and keeping insulin in the system longer. And so it's like, if insulin is present, you are not using your body fat for fuel. And if you don't have enough fuel in this form of food, if we're trying to eat less and lose weight, basically the risk that we run is that we will sacrifice muscle to get the fuel that we need. Okay, so ketones versus insulin. So ketones are energy, insulin is a hormone. But basically, these are the two things that we're thinking about with regards to white fat and brown fat, creating beige white fat, browning, beiging of white fat to make it more brown, to make it more like brown fat. So ketones uncouple mitochondria. That creates more energy, that wastes energy. We like that when we're trying to lose weight. Ketones make the inefficient use of fuel that is in your body or on your body, white fat. So we want that to be burned. Ketones preserve muscles from not being used for energy. That is huge. And this is something too, I'm going to say that maybe I talked about the first half, but not the second half, which is that assumption that muscle mass will be lost based on losing weight, based on not eating. And as a fat burner, it's like, what are you even talking about? But it's because of the fuel that we are generating, that we're able to generate. It preserves muscle. So by burning your own body fat, you preserve muscle. Okay? So by eating a lower carbohydrate diet, going through a mitochondrial reconstruction, having strategic carb feasts as we do, basically, when we are using ketones, when we are creating energy from our body fat, we are preserving muscle. All right? So if you care about that, that might be a different way of eating and operating, might be more heavily considered if that's an objective for you, if that's a concern for you, which I feel like it is for a lot of people. It is for a lot of women. It is for a lot of women as they get older. But this is kind of like one and done in a sense. Like, yes to eating more protein, yes to doing strength training, but this is a pretty good buffer to protect the thing that you have concern about or care for. Okay. Let's see. And so I guess essentially I'm kind of like saying the same thing. I like watched a talk that I had given many years ago in preparation for this. And so basically just like simple things to remember. Ketones uncouple mitochondria from the affluent adipose tissue. This is like a little, what do I want to say? It's not called consonants, alliteration. And so to help you remember, but ketones uncouple mitochondria from the affluent adipose tissue. And ketones also keep the mitochondria miserly in the muscle tissue. So it doesn't use the muscle, what's stored in the muscle or what could be used in the muscle tissue. It takes it from the fat. Thank you so much. So basically it helps burn what you have, what you want to lose, and preserves what you want to keep easily, simply by the fuel that you're creating based on the food and the behaviors that you are adopting. Alrighty. And then, yeah. And so essentially, this is one big like fat argument for getting your body into a fat burning mode. It is so far beyond like one thing. It's so far beyond weight loss. It's so far beyond, you know, carbs are bad, or, you know, I don't want to eat a lot of fat, or like, it's so beyond one thing. And so one thing I love, this is something that I kind of forgot about. Like, there are just a million aspects to why this state is so freaking good. And this is just one of them. And so basically it's like, it makes another thing that I didn't stumble across in my last talk, but essentially it makes your fat easier to lose. And so it's like, it changes the nature of your fat. And so a lot of people have a lot of difficulty with weight loss, right? But by the nature of the fuel that you're burning, creating, you make your fat easier to lose. And so it's not even like, you know, what do I want to say? It's not just like, oh, well, you know, this is more comfortable, or this helps me to not have cravings. Yes, yes, yes. This gives me more energy. But it changes the nature of the fat that's on your frame while keeping muscle intact. Like, this is just like one freaking thing. Yes. And so the bottom line is like, we have to choose a fuel source. Like, it's either carbs or it's fat. And the thing that I want to say too, actually, we'll get like rambly now, is that for those of us who are in a fat burning mode, for those of us who have gone through a mitochondrial reconstruction, if we work with me, basically we don't eat a ton of fat. Like, fat exists, but I'm not eating like pounds of butter. It's like, I eat the fat that I enjoy, namely peanut butter, or cheese, or sometimes it's like light mayo or heavy mayo. But it's like, butter does happen. It totally depends, but it's not excessive. It's more so that dietary fat is useful to kind of groom your body. But what we really do is we get, locked into using our body fat. So dietary fat can help reinforce that wiring, while carbohydrates kind of pulls us away from that. But it's not about eating tons of fat. It's about reinforcing the state that we want to be in and just continuing to pull from the fuel source that we want to lose. And so it's awesome. But anyway, so it's like, you got to pick one. And if you pick both, high carbohydrates and high fat, that's just like instant weight gain. That's a standard American diet. That's like, let me have, you know, French fries, like high carb, high fat. Okay, great. Delicious. Not amazing for our waistline. So anyway, but when we eat, when we prioritize fat, whether we're eating it, burning it, it reduces inflammation, it reduces hunger, it increases ketones. It increases ketones, which help in the effort to lose weight. It's changing the nature of our body fat. Amazing. It increases human growth hormone, which helps with weight loss. Once again, thank you so much. Human growth hormone is considered our fountain of youth. It raises testosterone levels, which help with muscle mass, confidence, lowers depression and anxiety. Human growth hormone is responsible for collagen production. It staves off disease. Fat, what do I want to say? Yep, it's like it's so convenient. We can go for hours without eating, like easy breezy, no problem. We can do intermittent fasting, which means that we can kind of decide how we're eating each day. We can go for days without eating. We can go for the whole day without eating. We can go for part of the day without eating. We can change that every day based on how we feel, what we want, what's going on around us. It's so freeing. And then with that setup, it slows aging. Every time we eat, we are giving ourselves the instruction to divide. And we have only so many divisions before the cell is kaput. So when we don't eat all the time, we're just slowing that process, which means that we have more life in our cells because we're not just churning and burning through them. This way of being, how we do it, it's considered an anti-cancer diet because of the nature of autophagy, this cellular regeneration process, the body kind of cleaning itself up, fixing defunct bits, and then also the process of apoptosis, which essentially is cell death. It's the body finding defunct cells, mutant cells, cancerous cells. Cancerous cells are not cooperative. They are not, most healthy cells communicate, they work together, and cancerous cells don't. And so anyway, a healthy body, a body that has more bandwidth, a body that's able to do stuff like this, basically enables this process more. And this is something we do in our boost. So when we go for longer periods without eating, we do this periodically. We do this when we're like very, very ready. This is in Fat Burning Pro Extended. We don't start with this, we get there. And some never do, and that's totally perfect. But it enables and speeds up the process of apoptosis, which basically is those defunct rogue cells being taken apart. So they don't spread and do more damage or create an untimely end. But anyway, better energy, better moods, less disease. It is so good. And so it is not like, I'll just have green beans or I'll have broccoli today. Like, it is night and day. It's like apples and wheelbarrows. Like, it's completely different. So insulin holds on to fat. It makes our energy use super efficient. And it runs the risk of breaking muscle down for fuel. Ketones are very inefficient energy-wise, which means that they create heat. They burn white fat better because they uncouple mitochondria. They make weight loss so much easier. It preserves muscles, and it burns fat more easily. And that is it. I hope that was really useful. I hope that was good. I thought, again, this is like, thank you for coming. I've been focused a little bit more on speaking to emotion and talking about results. So, talking about just like big change. I'll say like talking about change, talking about frustration, talking about freedom, which are incredibly compelling things to talk about. But what I realize is that I think one thing that's made me stand out in the past is talking about the science behind things. Like actually how this shit works, why it's different. It's not just like, look at me, this is better. Standing next to someone else who's saying, look at me, this is better. And then it's like, well, it doesn't, like nothing stands out. And so I just wanted to share something that I thought might be relevant for more people to kind of sink their teeth into as to why fat burning is so much better. It's so different. And like, I guess I've been sharing the rate at which people tend to lose, and also the fact that the people that have struggled with weight loss, the people that have felt, the women over 40 that have felt like weight loss is kind of like now a pipe dream, their bodies are not their own anymore. That's who I help. And, but anyway, I've gotten away from talking specifically about how the body works, why this works, what happens when we do it, and why it is so good. And so that was my goal tonight. And so anyway, I hope that's like one little nugget that has stuck with you, that makes the argument for getting your body into a fat burning mode, for going through a mitochondrial reconstruction, and literally changing the nature of how your body works, including how your fat is configured, how your fat behaves, and how it makes it so much easier to lose weight and then ultimately harder to gain it. Plus, 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 plus. All right, I hope that was amazing. If you're a woman over 40 who would like to lose 8 to 15 pounds in a month because you are so tired of trying hard and not seeing the change that you desire, please check out our sugar quiz. Please check out the videos following. Please set up a free time for a talk to see where you are and to get some reality around why things might not be working and what might work a lot better instead. Okay, this is meant to be for life. That's my goal. And it makes life and the future so much different and so much brighter. Okay, that's it. Love to you. Thank you for being here, and until next time.